There's something about silence that drives control freaks insane. The day I moved into Evergreen Hills, I wasn't looking for trouble. Just peace. Fresh start. After 20 years in the military, a bitter divorce, and a custody fight that nearly crushed me, I wanted to rebuild quietly. No drama. No headlines. Just me and my daughter, Maya. But peace doesn't exist where Karen Wilcox lives. She stood across the street with arms folded, lips pressed so tight they turned white. White HOA polo shirt. Clipboard tucked under her elbow. Hair stiff like she ironed it. And that smile, polite enough to fool a stranger, sharp enough to cut concrete. The truck hadn't even finished backing into the driveway when she stepped in front of it and tapped the hood twice. 2 taps, not 3. Like a code. Like this wasn't a welcome, it was a warning. I thanked the driver, tipped him, and began unloading. She watched every box, especially the one labeled court docs. I caught her squinting at it. She pretended not to. That's the thing about people like her, they're always pretending. She came over the next morning with a packet. Welcome to the community. Here's a list of neighborhood expectations. Grass must be under 2 inches. No backyard sheds. No visible work vehicles. No flags or signs on windows. And all garbage bins must be hidden from street view. I nodded. Didn't say a word. She waited for a reaction. When she didn't get one, she smiled tighter. 3 days later, I got my first violation. Mailbox paint too faded. Then came the second, unauthorized porch light bulb. Then the third, parking on the wrong side of my own driveway. Maya started asking questions. Why is she always watching us? Why is she always writing things down? I told her not to worry. I told her to focus on school. But I saw the stress creeping in. She stopped inviting friends over. She pulled her curtains shut during the day. She started flinching when the doorbell rang. Then Karen accused me of tampering with HOA documents. Said I falsified ownership information to avoid fines. She knocked on my door with 2 board members behind her like bodyguards, holding a manila envelope in her hand like it was a weapon. I opened the door. She didn't say hello. Just pushed the envelope toward me. Your signature doesn't match county records. We're filing a formal complaint. Lying on HOA documents is a felony. I didn't respond. Didn't blink. She stared at me like she was expecting me to panic. Run. Beg. Instead, I calmly took the envelope and said thank you. Have a nice day. She froze. Something about how calm I was. It rattled her. That night, she posted in the HOA group that she'd uncovered a fraud, a liar, a danger to the neighborhood. She used my name. Maya saw the post and burst into tears. I'll never forget her voice. Dad, why is she doing this to us? I didn't have an answer that wouldn't scare her more. But inside, something snapped. Not rage, not fear. Just this cold, steady clarity. Karen thought she was destroying me. She had no idea who she was dealing with. 1 week later, I stood at my mailbox when she strutted by with sunglasses and a smirk. She stopped, looked me dead in the eyes, and said loud enough for neighbors to hear, "You'll be hearing from the courts soon, liar." I nodded slowly, let the words sit in the air, then smiled. You're absolutely right. She walked away satisfied, thinking she'd won. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't the one going to court. I was the one running it. The violations didn't stop. They multiplied. Week by week, Karen's letters became more aggressive. Law not trimmed. Curtains not HOA compliant. Decorative rocks unauthorized. It wasn't enforcement, it was war. Every notice carried a fine. Every fine came with a threat. She started photographing my house daily. Maya caught her once crouching behind a bush with a zoom lens. I filed a complaint with the HOA board. They sent back a form letter with no signature. Karen had them scared too. Neighbors stopped waving. They turned their backs when I walked by. Whispers followed Maya at school. Rumors Karen had planted. That we weren't legal homeowners. That I had a criminal record. That Maya was expelled from her last school. Lies, all of it. But lies stick when people are afraid. One evening, I came home to find a yellow sticker on my truck, subject to towing commercial use vehicle. It wasn't commercial. It was registered private. I knew the law. But Karen didn't care about law, only control. That night, I noticed something. A strange glint near my mailbox. A tiny camera, hidden inside a fake lawn light. She was spying on us. I called an old friend, Detective Rana Malik. We hadn't spoken in years, not since the night shift days. She listened quietly, then said, "I'll stop by." Off the record. She arrived 2 days later. No uniform, no cruiser. Just a gray hoodie and a sharp mind. We walked the property together. She found 3 more hidden cameras, all broadcasting to a private network. Illegal surveillance. Felony level. We filed a police report. Karen denied everything. She showed up on my doorstep the next morning, face twisted in fake confusion. "Are you trying to intimidate me now? Getting your little cop friend involved?" I didn't answer. She leaned closer. "This isn't going to end well for you." Then she stepped back and waved toward Maya's window. "Tell your daughter I said hi." That was it. I stepped outside and stood chest to chest with her. Close enough she could hear how steady my breathing was. "You're crossing lines, Karen." She smiled. "You don't belong here. You think hiding behind silence makes you strong?" I said nothing. She laughed. "You're afraid. You're just another liar who got caught." I looked her in the eye. "No, I'm the one who knows how this ends." She blinked. Just once. Then turned and stormed off. Maya watched the whole thing from upstairs. She didn't ask questions this time. Just stared at me with quiet understanding. "You're planning something, aren't you?" I nodded. She deserves to lose everything. That week, Karen filed a formal claim with the city, alleging threats, harassment, said I tried to intimidate a public official, called herself a community protector. The city set a court hearing. Karen bragged about it on every corner, told neighbors she was finally cleaning up the street, that she was the reason the law was getting involved. The irony almost made me laugh. The night before the hearing, she paced the sidewalk with her phone out, narrating into the HOA Facebook page live stream. "I'll see you in court, Eli Navarro. This community will finally be safe." I sat at my desk, reviewing the court docket she didn't even know I had helped build. The judge assigned to the case had just taken leave. I was stepping in. Temporary appointment. She'd get her courtroom. She'd get her audience. And she'd get her truth, served in front of every person she thought she'd fooled. The hearing was 5 days away. And every second between now and then, she was writing her own downfall. The morning of the hearing, Evergreen Hills was quiet, but not peaceful. Karen's porch was dressed like she was preparing for a parade. Balloons, flags, and a sign that read "Justice for Evergreen." Her friends gathered on her lawn, sipping coffee, whispering, waiting to witness the takedown. She wore a cream-colored blazer, a tight bun, and sunglasses that covered half her face. She held that same clipboard like it was a sword. She thought this was her stage. What she didn't know was that the script had changed. I arrived early at the courthouse, through the private entrance. No media, no crowd, just duty. I didn't tell Maya the full truth, only that today would be important. She understood more than I wanted her to. 10 minutes before the hearing, Karen walked into the courtroom with full confidence. She spotted me sitting alone at the front bench and smirked like she'd already won. The court clerk called for silence. Then the judge was announced. There was a pause. Karen straightened in her seat. And then I stood. The reaction hit like a lightning strike. She shot out of her seat. "What is this? He can't be the judge. This is outrageous." The clerk asked her to remain seated. Karen's voice trembled, but her volume grew. "He's the liar, the fraud. This is conflict of interest. This is corruption." I leaned forward, calm, deliberate. "Ms. Wilcox, the court will hear your complaint. But first, the court will hear mine." She froze. For the first time, she looked unsure. I laid out everything. Documented harassment, tampering with private property, false claims filed under oath, surveillance equipment hidden on private land, 3 confirmed witnesses, security footage from 2 separate dates, and an affidavit from Detective Malik. The courtroom was dead silent. Karen's voice cracked as she tried to respond. He's twisting everything. He's manipulating the narrative. He's dangerous. I turned to the gallery. Ms. Wilcox has filed over 73 HOA citations in the last 6 months. 46 were reversed after community complaints. 16 were under active investigation. The board members in the back exchanged looks. Karen's face drained of color. She tried to stand. The bailiff gestured for her to sit. Then came the evidence photos. Each camera, each placement, each timestamp. One was found inside a child's playhouse. Gasps filled the room. Karen stammered. "That's not mine. That's not mine. Someone's framing me." The court clerk announced that a motion had been filed for temporary injunction, banning Ms. Wilcox from all community oversight positions pending investigation. Karen's hands shook. I could see the denial collapsing behind her eyes, the mask crumbling, the script she wrote for herself, turning to ash. She looked at me, desperate. "Please, this is a misunderstanding. You know me. You know I care about this neighborhood." I didn't respond. I let the silence answer for me. The judge's gavel fell. Court adjourned for evidence review and final ruling. Temporary restrictions granted. HOA board notified. Karen stood frozen as people filtered out. No one looked at her. Not even the board. She turned to me one last time. "This isn't over." I looked her dead in the eye. "It already is." Outside the courthouse, Maya was waiting with Rana. She looked at me. "Is it done?" "Almost." I didn't have to say more. Karen thought this was the end of my story, but it was just the midpoint of hers. Because karma doesn't stop in court. It follows you home. Karen didn't take the court loss quietly. The next morning, her house looked like a bunker. Curtains drawn, cameras ripped down, the welcome mat gone. Her lawn, once trimmed to military perfection, was now littered with discarded flyers and notices, her own weapon turned against her. But silence isn't surrender. Not with someone like her. By nightfall, the retaliation began. My mailbox was ripped from the ground. Spray paint across my garage, lyre in red, dripping like blood. My truck's tires slashed clean through. No fingerprints. No footage. Just Karen's shadow watching from behind a window. The police filed the damage as unknown vandalism. No arrests. No questions. I knew what she was doing. She was testing me again. But this time, she wasn't the only one unraveling. Maya had changed. She stopped asking questions. She started locking her bedroom door. Started sleeping with headphones just to drown out the world. I found her one morning sitting on the front steps in her school uniform, fists clenched, eyes burning. I'm not afraid of her anymore. It was the first time she spoke with fire in her voice since this started. I nodded slowly. Neither am I. That same day, I received a letter. Not from Karen. From the state bar. Karen had filed a formal ethics complaint against me. She claimed I used my judicial position to harass, intimidate, and retaliate. It was bold, desperate, dangerous. I wasn't surprised. I was furious. But what cut deepest wasn't the accusation. It was that she dragged my career, my oath, my reputation into her mess. She wanted to destroy me publicly. She wanted Maya to see headlines again, to relive the custody battle, to question who her father really was. She wanted chaos. So I gave her something else. Order. I requested a formal HOA audit. No shortcuts. Full transparency. Every violation, every fine, every complaint she filed. We went back 5 years. We found patterns, names, payments made to vendors that didn't exist, landscaping contracts awarded to companies her cousin owned, reimbursements she approved herself without board review, over $92,000 redirected through fake invoices. All traceable, all filed. Karen's empire wasn't just rotten, it was criminal. The board turned on her overnight. Emergency meetings, anonymous resignations, community members suddenly knocking on my door to apologize, to confess, to offer help. Karen stopped leaving her house. But the pressure didn't stay at her doorstep. One night, Maya came running down the stairs. Someone's outside my window. I grabbed the flashlight and stepped into the dark. There was no one there. just footprints in the soil below her window. Pressed deep, barefoot. The next morning, I checked the neighborhood watch app. A neighbor 2 streets over had posted a blurred photo. A woman in a white nightgown walking barefoot at 3 a.m. said she was talking to herself. Repeating names. Maya's name was one of them. That night, I moved Maya into the guest room. I stayed on the couch. I didn't sleep. At 2:47 a.m., the doorbell rang. Not once. 5 times. Rapid. Then silence. I stepped outside. Karen stood at the curb. No shoes. Dirt on her arms. Eyes wide like she hadn't blinked in hours. She held a single photo in her hand. It was from years ago. Me in uniform, Maya on my shoulders, a 4th of July parade. She whispered, "You don't deserve her." Then she turned and walked into the dark. I didn't chase her. I called Rana. We're past HOA violations now. We're in full breakdown. She's unstable. Rana didn't hesitate. It's time we press charges. Karen started this with a clipboard and a smile. But now she was falling apart, and she was going to take down everything in her path, unless we stopped her. And stopping her meant exposing everything. Even the part one hadn't told anyone. Not even Maya. The day started with silence. But it wasn't peace. It was the kind of silence you feel in your ribs. Tight, sharp, warning you something was about to break. Karen's house was empty. No car. No lights. The porch camera showed nothing for over 12 hours. But her mail was gone. The newspaper collected. Someone had been inside. Maya refused to go to school. She said it straight this time. She's watching me. I didn't ask how she knew. Sometimes fear doesn't need evidence. It just settles into your bones and waits to be right. I called Rana. We're missing something. She came over within the hour. Together, we reviewed every file, every complaint, every statement Karen ever filed. There were patterns, yes, but one name kept showing up in signatures, board approvals, checks. Daniel Wilcox. Her husband. I'd never seen him. Never heard his name in the HOA meetings. No public appearances. No photos on the wall. But 5 years ago, he co-signed every major expense. Then nothing. Rana dug deeper. She found a death certificate. Car crash. 2 streets from here. Karen's husband had died years ago, but she'd kept signing things in his name. Even forged documents from him claiming oversight. Fake audits. Faked approvals. Karen had been pretending her husband was alive. To the city. To the HOA board. To herself. We looked at each other and didn't speak for a long moment. She's not just dangerous. She's delusional. Rana leaned forward. And she's been running this neighborhood like it's her therapy. I stood and walked to the window. Across the street, Karen's curtains moved. Just a sliver. She was watching, but I wasn't hiding anymore. I opened the front door, stepped outside, and stood there, still calm. She didn't come out. But that night, she made her move. It started with a power outage. At exactly 2:03 a.m., every light in my house shut off. The breakers hadn't tripped. Nothing inside was damaged, but the outside generator was cut. Wires cleanly sliced. My security feed went black, and then glass shattered. Not a window. Maya's mirror. From upstairs. I bolted up the steps. Her door was open. She was gone. The window by her bed, open just enough. I tore through the yard. Nothing. No footsteps this time. Only a single thing left behind. A printed photo. Karen, standing behind Maya, taken from inside the house. Rana arrived within 6 minutes. We split up. I drove street by street, calling Maya's name until my voice cracked. Then, at the edge of the retention pond near the woods, I saw it. Flashlight beam. Faint. Flickering. I ran, and there she was, Maya, standing alone at the water's edge, staring into the dark. She turned slowly, eyes hollow. She said she told me to come here. Karen. She found Maya's private journal. Used it against her. Left notes in her backpack. Whispered things at night, just beneath the floorboards. Rana appeared behind me, gun drawn. But Karen wasn't there. Not yet. Not until the quiet broke. From the trees behind us, footsteps, slow, unhurried, and there she was, in her nightgown, mud up to her knees, holding a torn photo album in one hand. I only ever wanted order. She looked at Maya. She's not safe with him. She looked at me. You took everything from me. I stepped between them. You did that to yourself. Karen laughed, and then dropped the album in the mud. You think this is over? Eli, it's never been about you. She pulled something from her sleeve. Not a weapon. A letter. Addressed to me. Stamped 3 months ago. Inside a complaint. Filed anonymously. About my appointment. About my custody case. About a sealed record. A secret only one person knew. Karen didn't find it by mistake. She was the one who filed it. She tried to disbar me before the hearing ever happened. This wasn't just personal. It was premeditated. Rana stepped forward. Karen Wilcox, you're under arrest. Karen didn't run. She just dropped to her knees and whispered something I couldn't hear. The cuffs clicked behind her back. Maya didn't move. Not until Karen was gone. Then she looked at me with a question in her eyes. What secret did she have on you? I looked away, and the truth sat heavy in my chest, because Karen wasn't wrong about everything. And the part she got right might still destroy me. The next morning, the house didn't feel like home. It felt like a courtroom without a verdict, quiet, cold, waiting to see who broke first. Maya stayed upstairs. Didn't eat. Didn't speak. I sat alone with the letter Karen tried to use against me. The one I never wanted her to see. The one I thought I'd buried for good. I unfolded it again, slowly. 3 pages. Each one laced with memories I'd spent years trying to forget. It started 7 years ago. Before I was a judge. Before the uniform. When I was just a lawyer drowning in case files and grief. My wife and I had been fighting custody over Maya. It was brutal. Not because we hated each other, but because we loved her too much to let go. There was one night, one mistake, an argument that got too loud, a glass shattered. A neighbor called the police. No arrests, no charges, but it was enough. Enough for the court to take temporary custody from me. It lasted 3 weeks, the longest weeks of my life. I got her back, but the record never disappeared. It stayed sealed, locked, buried behind titles and promotions in silence, until Karen. She'd found it, used it to question my authority, my appointment, my character. But she didn't know the whole truth. Not what happened after. Not what I swore I'd never tell Maya. Not until now. I stood outside her door. Knocked once. Nothing. I opened it anyway. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone. Her eyes were red. She didn't look up. You lied to me. Her voice was flat, empty. You told me she left because of work. That it was mutual. I sat across from her. It wasn't mutual. She left because we both couldn't hold it together. Maya clenched her jaw. Was it true? What the file said. I nodded. I raised my voice. Once. And I broke a glass against the wall. She turned away. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted you to remember me as the man who kept you safe. Not the one who almost lost you. There was silence. Then, quietly. But I needed to know. Her words sliced deeper than any accusation Karen ever made. I reached into my jacket and placed the photo Karen dropped me and Maya at the parade on her desk. I did everything to protect you, even from the worst parts of me. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just nodded once. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. Karen hadn't just tried to break into our home. She broke into the space between us and planted a seed of doubt I couldn't undo with truth alone. Later that night, Rana called. She'd just come from the precinct. Karen wasn't speaking, but someone else had. A man, mid-50s, nervous, said he used to work with Karen's husband. He told a different story. Daniel Wilcox didn't die in a car crash. He died in his sleep, at home. Karen never reported it. She buried him herself, in the garden, under the flagpole. Said she couldn't lose the house. that no one would understand, that she was the only one left to protect the neighborhood. Rana's voice broke slightly. They dug this evening. He was right. I couldn't speak. Not for a while. Karen wasn't just unwell. She was haunted, trapped in a world where control was love and silence was safety. And somehow I'd been part of that world without even knowing. The next morning, Maya left a note on the fridge. Gone for a walk. She never did that before. I panicked. Called her. No answer. 30 minutes passed. Then a message pinged. Just a photo. Maya, at the pond, holding a flower. Caption, I get it now. I drove there as fast as I could. She was waiting. She didn't run, didn't cry. She just looked at me and said, you tried to protect me from your pain. I tried to protect you from mine. We both failed. And then she hugged me, tighter than she had in years. Not because everything was okay, but because we knew it wasn't. And that was finally okay. The trial wasn't public. Karen's defense pleaded for mental health evaluation. The charges included fraud, harassment, and obstruction. But the DA added one more, unlawful disposal of a body. She never denied it, just stared ahead, hands folded, as if she'd already sentenced herself. But something unexpected happened on the second day. Karen requested to speak. Not to the judge, to me. I sat across the glass in the visitation room. She looked thinner, older. The bravado was gone. She leaned forward. You remind me of him. I didn't respond. He never knew when to let go either. I asked her why she did it. Why she followed Maya. Why she tried to destroy me. She didn't blink. Because you didn't belong here. You brought change, disruption, noise. Then she smiled faintly. But Maya, she listened. That scared me more than anything she'd ever done. She wasn't after control. She was after replacement. She lost a husband, buried him in her backyard, and built a world where she could rewrite the rules. And Maya, strong, curious, kind, was the only one who reminded her of everything she'd lost. When the trial ended, Karen was placed in a psychiatric facility indefinitely. The HOA dissolved a week later. Rana took a job with the city council. And me? I declined the federal appointment. For the first time in 15 years, I chose stillness over status. Because something strange happened after it all ended. I heard Maya laugh again. At breakfast. In the car. Walking past the pond. Like she'd been holding her breath for years and finally remembered how to breathe. One evening, I found her in the garage dusting off the old paint cans. Said she wanted to change the living room color. Said it felt too heavy in there. So we painted it sky blue. The next day, I received a letter. No name, no return address. Just a single sentence typed in the center. You judged her fairly. There was no signature. But I knew who sent it. Weeks passed. Normal things returned. Trash days, grocery runs, school lunches. But the silence was different now. No longer tense, just peaceful. Then one morning, as I stepped out to grab the paper, I saw something on the porch. A small box. Inside, Karen's old HOA gavel, wrapped in a faded piece of cloth. A note folded beneath it. To the man who taught me that power without compassion rots from the inside. It wasn't from Karen. It was from another board member. One of the few who stayed quiet through everything. She wrote that watching how I handled Karen, not with anger, but with restraint, made her question everything they'd built. She was starting a nonprofit for restorative justice, and she wanted Maya and me to come speak. I showed the letter to Maya. She didn't hesitate. Let's go, she said. We stood on stage weeks later. Small crowd, just neighbors, students, and a few strangers. I told them about Karen, about fear wearing the mask of order, about how silence breeds monsters louder than screams. Then Maya stepped up. She said healing isn't loud. It's in the quiet moments when someone tells the truth and nobody runs away. The room didn't clap right away. They just sat there, soaking it in. And that was better than applause. That night, we drove home with the windows down. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't look over my shoulder. Because in the end, Karen was wrong about one thing. We didn't bring chaos. We brought the storm that cleared it all away. So if you ever feel like you don't belong, or that someone's trying to erase your peace, stand still, hold your truth, and watch what happens when karma finally catches up. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that remind us. The truth always finds its voice.